So Rob, I hear you sold all your worldly possessions. Is that an accurate assessment of what's happened in the last couple of weeks?
A small subset of them.
Oh, all right, all right. What
Certainly not all of them.
you just sold the coasters is what I think they are. They coasters or are they're these round plastic things that
Oh, come on, now you're being mean. I sold. I sold all of my Blu-ray. Well, mine and Jess's. Both of our Blu-ray collection.
all right. And you had a lot, I know, right?
Yeah, I probably had 20 or 30, mostly superhero movies, MCU, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And Jess had maybe 100
Oh, wow.
animated, so Disney, Pixar, that kind of stuff. And we wanted to watch Thor the other day, the Thor Ragnarok, the latest one.
Right.
And we were like, oh, it's on iTunes, but I was probably going to buy the Blu-ray, and then we just kind of ended up having this discussion like, do we really need to just buy the Blu-rays because for whatever reason we were buying them, like you kind of get better extras with some of them, and
Yep.
it's nice to have a physical thing. And then we were just like, no, forget it. So we just sold the whole lot in one go.
Oh, wow. Would you send them to like a secondhand store or on eBay or what?
No, we took them down to I think I've probably mentioned it before, the secondhand game shop that I used to work at.
Yeah.
They sell games and DVDs, Blu-rays, that kind of stuff. So I took them down there and sold them to the guy that runs it.
Mm-hmm. Did you get some games in exchange or store credit or what'd you do?
No, we got cash and we converted all of it to iTunes credit.
Oh, nice. So now you go straight. So did you rip the movies first? You don't have to answer.
No, I didn't. I can't. Well, I would have had to buy a Blu-ray drive of some kind,
Yes,
and
for 120
forget all
movies,
It's
that
too
might be a
much.
good investment, though.
Yeah, but it's a lot of effort. And where do they live? I couldn't be bothered with it.
Well, you'd have to. Then you'd find yourself buying a NAS. Yeah, you. There's a slippery slope into Plex and home media servers and all sorts of things that I have dabbled around the edges at. And yes, you could find yourself spending 3x what it would cost just to download them from iTunes.
Yeah, like I've got a Plex server which has got a few bits that I've ripped off a lot of British TV shows that I used to have the DVDs for, that I'd ripped years ago. Stuff that it's not available in HD and stuff, Blackadder and 40 Towers, that kind of stuff. That's not available in HD. So I've still got a bunch of that kind of stuff on the Plex server, but I really couldn't be bothered to rip all those movies. I just thought, no, let's just get rid of them, get as much cash as we can, convert it to iTunes credit, and we'll just buy movies when we want them.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I operate. I mean, I actually have never owned a Blu-ray player, and I just kind of got to that point where I had DVDs. They're taking up a lot of space in the house, and some of them are still around, and I should probably just take them somewhere too, but they're probably not worth anything at all. Excuse me. But yeah, I never got a Blu-ray player, and then part of it was like I heard about those awful menu systems. That aren't they like Java based or something?
Yeah, I think some of them are.
And
Yeah, it's it kind of gets pretty bad. Like I don't have a Blu-ray player per se. I've got an Xbox One. I've got a PS4.
right,
I guess the PS3 as well will play Blu-rays. And all of those are kind of fine, but like the Xbox One's pretty just janky as a system in general. And the remote is kind of crappy. That I've got the official Xbox remote for the Blu-ray playback and stuff. And like the other day, I put a Blu-ray in, and this was a few weeks ago now. It's like, oh, you need to update the Blu-ray app to play this Blu-ray. I was like, oh, for God's sake, like. It's just so much hassle, and then of course you've got all the adverts and all of the other kind of crap that comes along with it.
yeah, that's kind of why I didn't do it. Plus, I'm not a big extras person, which I know that owning Blu-rays, one of the main arguments for it is having the extras.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly one of the main reasons. I mean, obviously the quality is better. I mean, I know they're streaming in 4K or at least HD from iTunes, but obviously it's compressed because it's streaming, so you are getting slightly better quality. But we just kind of got fed up as well. I mean, and this is exactly what they want. Like Thor was available on iTunes, but the Blu-ray didn't come out for another 2 weeks after that.
Right.
We kind of sat there like, well, we might as well just get it on iTunes. Like we barely ever, we'd got to the point where we weren't even watching the Blu-rays, just because it was so much hassle to watch them because of the Xbox and stuff like that.
Yeah. So are you buying movies from iTunes or are you renting them?
Yeah, we're buying. We spent like the first day we spent about £100, I think, just picking up a bunch of bundles that were on sale. Like they had a Thor bundle which had all 3 movies. We picked up all 6 Spider-Man movies for like £25 or something.
I think Wonder Woman's on sale right now. They're doing like a special this week, I think, if you don't have that one.
Not in the UK. That's US. The deals are different between different regions. But I got, I think the day we got the credit, Atomic Blonde was like £6 or something.
Wow.
So we picked that up, which, is a movie that I've seen, which I really like. So yeah, we're kind of just, we're not going to replace all of them at once because a lot of them are Disney movies and those are really expensive.
Yeah.
And very rarely, when they go on sale, we will spend a lot of money.
Right.
Like, we will buy a bunch of them. But I downloaded an app, I think it's called like Movie Charts or something, which tells you all the movies and bundles that have gone on sale that day.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just keeping an eye on that. I'm talking as if iTunes Digital is like, a brand new thing. I'm pretty late to this party. We'd bought stuff in the past on iTunes, like, but for the most part, we were quite happy just watching TV,
Right.
on Netflix, Amazon Prime, that kind of thing.
Right.
So we had a few movies hanging around on our iTunes account anyway, but we're kind of just all in on it now. Like it's too much hassle to just, should we get the Blu-ray or should we see if it's on iTunes or see if it's on Netflix? Like we'll still check those, but if it's stuff we know we're going to watch loads of times, we're just going to buy it now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm not a big rewatcher of movies, so I rent more than I buy. I have found myself buying once in a while where it's a really big movie that I really like, and I'm sure, even if I only watch it a couple of times more, it's usually worth it. And then the other, I guess, circumstance where I might buy would be the similar one to that you've found yourself in with Thor, which is, they're always available to buy on iTunes a good 2 or 3 weeks before they're available to rent. So I've done that a few times.
Yeah, it sounds really silly. Like, it's been quite a while we've been buying Blu-rays and stuff, and it opened up a big space on our shelves, and we got rid of them. But it's just kind of nice to I kind of maybe get the TV app a little bit more now.
Yeah.
And in the Apple TV, I don't really want to get into that, but it kind of makes a bit more sense now that we're feeding a bit more content into it rather than just having the 20 or so movies that I had in my iTunes account from the last 10 years or something.
Yeah, it really does start to make more sense once you're feeding it from multiple sources. I do wish they had Netflix integration with that app though, because that's probably still the single most used Apple TV app on our Apple TV. Is that we're watching Netflix more than anything, followed by probably Hulu, and then renting movies. And we actually in the last couple of weeks bought a TV series for the first time in a long, long time, because now that we've cut the cord and are just doing things like Hulu and Netflix, we did find a show that we couldn't stream anywhere, which is The Alienist, which is, I think, on TNT maybe, which is a cable network here. It's quite good. Good, it's set in like 1896 New York, and it's a murder mystery, sort of dark, almost Sherlock Holmes-y sort of story, and it's a good series. But we were only able to get it on iTunes, and since we had read at least my wife had read the book, we figured we would pick it up, and have been enjoying just kind of watching those as they become available once a week or so.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think actually, like now we're kind of buying movies rather than waiting for them on Netflix or what, if it's something we want to watch, we're just going to buy it, or as you say, maybe rent it. But it's actually making us kind of think a bit more about what it is we really want to watch, and do we actually want to spend money on certain things, or even just waste time, because most movies are at least like 2 hours now.
Right.
Do I actually want to spend 2 hours watching this and also spend between £5 and £10, probably not. So it's kind of made me like step back a bit and go, no, let's just watch movies we really, really want to watch.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Plus, there's always, I don't know, a lot of those, the superhero movies will pop up from time to time on various, Amazon and Netflix and other outlets. So you can always rewatch them that way too if it's one that you don't have yet.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of our plan. We're not gonna. I think we got like another £150 worth of credit because we got kind of a good deal buying iTunes gift cards. So we've got a fair bit of credits out there, and we're just like, well, if there's a movie on sale that we know we're going to watch, or there's something we want to watch, we'll just buy it, irrelevant of what the price is, because it's kind of just nice to have it all in iTunes.
Yeah. No, that's good idea. Well, and now you've decluttered a little bit, which I'm a big proponent of, getting rid of just stuff that sits around gathering dust on shelves. So,
yeah, we filled up those shelves pretty quickly.
Congratulations on joining the 21st century, Rob.
Thank you very much.
So I wanted to tell you about a little excursion I had last Friday. My youngest son, who is not off to college yet and is still here at home with us, he had the day off from school, so we decided we would do something special, and we went to a monster truck show, which I have actually done once before, but hadn't done in many, many, many years. And before we did that, though, we went up to a shopping mall in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, where they have a restaurant called Level 257, which is run by, I think it's owned by Namco. It's all Pac-Man themed. So there's a bunch of these type of places in the U.S. They tend to be at shopping malls, but it was an enormous restaurant. It had in the middle, it was like a bar and restaurant, and on the ends, on each side, there were bowling alleys, and then kind of to the sides of the bowling alleys, there were all sorts of arcade games, and some of them were, really old games like Missile Command and Centipede and Pac-Man and Galaga and I don't know, a lot of different things, Space Invaders, that kind of stuff. And then other ones were more recent. They had a really nice Super Mario Kart game that you could play up to 4 people simultaneously on. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow, that sounds
cool.
And
they'd taken some of these older games. This is a new phenomenon that I hadn't seen before, where they'd taken some of these older games and retrofitted them into a new kind of modern format that dispense tickets. Is that a thing in the UK where you do arcade game, certain kinds of games that spit tickets out and then you exchange them for junky toys and candy and stuff?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that in a couple of like the kind of really famous seaside towns. Blackpool is the one that comes to mind. I mean, we don't have that in Portsmouth at the arcade at the seafront. I'm not really sure why, but yeah, Blackpool definitely has that, and I think I imagine there are some other places that do it as well. So it's definitely something that happens.
Well, they did one thing that took the fun away from tickets, which is they didn't actually spit out paper tickets. They just spewed out electronic tickets back onto your card, because there were no coins involved or tokens. It was all on like a little credit card type thing. I think we each put $10. We didn't have a lot of time. We just put like $10 each on a card and went and played games. And so
Right.
The tickets ended up on this card, and then you exchanged the card for the junky toys at the end. But they had taken, for instance, Galaga and made it this, 7 or 8 foot high game where you would stand in front of it, and it was an enormous screen.
Huh.
And then they had another one which was Pac-Man, that you actually sat in a chair, and this screen had to have been like 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide. It was enormous, and you played Pac-Man. That was kind of pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
You sent me a picture while you were there of a huge Lego Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, that thing was probably 7 feet tall. I would say maybe a little bit more, even maybe 8 feet tall. It was really big. It was an enormous Lego Pac-Man that was in the lobby. It was a very strange restaurant because we went in and there was that at the ground level, but there was nothing else at the ground level. You had to go up these stairs, and it was on a second level where all the restaurant and all the games were. But I mean, the food was kind of your typical pub style fare. It wasn't the best, but it was fine for what we were going for there. I mean, in one of those very typical Twitter moments, I think I tweeted something about being there, like maybe a swarm or something, check-in and immediately got someone from the Chicago area saying, "I hope you're not there for dinner." I'd be like, "Well," because the food really sucks. I'm like, "Well, what do you think I'm here for?" I am here for the games, but it is kind of a restaurant too. So yeah, I ate the food, and I'll have to agree that it was good. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible like this guy thought it was. But in any event,
yeah, I assume you weren't expecting too much from
no,
no,
from
the game themed restaurant.
Yeah, so when I went to the Pac-Man restaurant, I'm not expecting to get fine cuisine, and it was more than adequate for what we were doing. And after that, we went to the Monster Truck Show. And
I saw a picture that you tweeted of this, and I was kind of a bit jealous. I don't think I've seen monster trucks for, God, I must have been about 7 or 8 last time I saw like any kind of monster truck show.
Yeah, this was at a stadium called the Allstate Arena, which is kind of out near the airport in Chicago, and it's not a huge stadium. And they had taken the whole, the whole floor of the thing and turned it into dirt, and there was a big mound in the middle. And they did all sorts of little events. Some of them were races around the outside. There was a freestyle part where they did like tricks where they would kind of go up this ramp and go up vertically and then bounce down on their tires and do all kinds of crazy stuff. One of them flipped over. The one with the bull with the horns flipped over and lost one of its horns, and they had to bring out a truck to turn it over and haul it out all broken. There's another one that was a zombie and had zombie arms attached to the side of the truck.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the what was it? I think it's called the Grave Digger. The Grave Digger won every single event. Some guy from North Carolina, but it was fun. And when they were racing around, I mean, we were close enough. We were like the third row. That we got sprayed with dirt when it went around.
Nice,
and it was insanely loud. Even when the trucks were moving really slowly, they were so loud that it would hurt your ear. We had earplugs, fortunately. But
they get pretty noisy.
Oh yeah, it's really noisy, and the whole place just reeks of diesel. I mean, diesel fuel. It's probably super unhealthy to be in there for any period of time. Between the noise and the fumes, we went home and we both smelled a little bit like we'd been standing behind a truck for 2 hours, which I guess we kind of had.
I kind of get that feeling. I've been a couple of times in the last few years when we go and do indoor go-karts.
Yeah.
When you're in kind of just a warehouse and there's like 20 go-karts, all spewing out fumes. You think this can't be good for anybody to be in here.
Right. It's somewhat ventilated, but you'd hate to be the worker who is there for like 8 hours and goes home every day just reeking of fuel.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It's, I hadn't done. It's one of those things that you could maybe do once every 10 years, at least for me. I did it when my older kids were really, really young, and it was kind of just a thing to do, and it was fun to do. What was really fun too was taking slow-mo videos on the iPhone. I got some really cool videos, which was fun to do, and shared those around. So it was good. It was a good outing, way to get out of the house and enjoy an extra day off.
Yeah, well, talking of extra days off, last week I sort of got snowed in.
No,
snowed in British terms. It's not snowed in like you would imagine as somebody from Chicago.
Well, it was it was funny because I watched this storm, which of course I know in the UK they called it the Beast from the East, right?
It's very dramatic.
It was very dramatic, and I think about 2 days before it hit you, it had hit Federico in Rome. And the day that it hit Rome, it was 60 degrees and sunny here in Chicago, and I actually had the window open while I was working and getting pictures of he had a lot of he probably had 3 or 4 inches of snow. I think he got more snow than the UK did, at least parts of the UK. I know they're further north in the UK. It was deeper than like where you are, or in London or whatever. But yeah, you're not equipped for it. He's certainly not equipped for it either in Italy. And how many days were you kind of stuck at home?
It was pretty much just the one day. So on the Thursday, I was at the office, and we were kind of expecting snow because it had done maybe like 10 minutes of snow the night before. And when we were sat there, it was about 2:00, and we're thinking, I'm sure the snow's going to start soon. And then it just, it really came down, just almost completely out of nowhere. It started coming down, and like within half an hour, like trains were delayed. Just because the UK is ridiculous. So two of the guys that get the train to work were like, right, we're going to go now to make sure we can get home. Right. And then I think a couple of the other guys left, and then Jess kind of texted me and said, I'm finishing early, I'll come and pick you up, which actually took her like, an hour to get to me, which really it should have taken like 15 minutes, because once it starts snowing, everybody starts leaving, which means all the roads are just packed with traffic. And Portsmouth is pretty bad. Like, as soon as there's like one accident or one incident or something, like everything just stops because Portsmouth's very tightly packed. Mm-hmm. You kind of just got a lot of single lanes of traffic, and like just a lot of roads that just get packed up really quickly. So yeah, she came and picked me up. It still took us like 45 minutes to get home, and what should have been like a 5 or 10 minute drive.
Right. I was surprised to hear about the trains, because I know in Chicago, even when the roads are so bad that no one's out driving, the trains still go. And so if you can get to a train, which maybe you can't, but if you can get to a train, you can usually get somewhere. And so there's really, like when I was working downtown, there was never a reason for me not to be able to get there other than getting down to the train station, which is only about a mile away. But if, there's a meter of snow, it's a little hard to get down there either driving or walking. But the trains, they get delayed sometimes, but they rarely just come to a grinding halt, which is, I know, happened in parts of the UK and Italy and elsewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of, this has been said a million times, but the UK just isn't prepared for this kind of weather, right. and it isn't worth the money that the likes of a place that gets a lot of snow, say Chicago, or somewhere up in Canada where they get a lot of snow, like they spend millions and millions of dollars a year making sure that the roads can be cleared. It just isn't worth it in the UK. Like, it's much easier to just basically shut the country down for a day, wait for the snow to go away, and then we all move on with our lives.
Yeah, it's kind of no different here in the South. I mean, because I went to school in North Carolina, and they weren't ready for it either. I mean, whenever it snows anywhere, there was earlier this winter, I know from talking to Stephen Hackett that they had a big snowstorm. They had like 4 or 5 inches of snow in Memphis. And I asked him, I was like, do you even have a snow shovel? And he didn't. I mean, he really was completely unequipped to deal with the situation. And fortunately for him, it only lasted a few days. But yeah, I mean, anywhere that's kind of more southern in the United States just doesn't have the equipment either, and people aren't ready for it. And their houses aren't really equipped for it either. They're not used to they're not as well insulated and all that kind of thing too.
Oh yeah, talking about not being equipped. Like I thought that on the Friday when all the snow had settled and we were just having a day off, and I was like, oh, I just need to go to the shop to get something. And I looked at my shoes on the shoe rack, and I thought, I don't have any shoes that are appropriate for snow. Like, I just have like a bunch of Converse and Vans, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, not great. No, I have big old boots that I use when I have to go out in the deep snow. So I'm always ready.
Oh dear! Wow, that's the weather. We normally do the weather at the beginning.
I know.
Of the show.
Well, see, we just thought we'd
snuck it in at the end.
We'll mix it up a little bit. It's actually quite cold here today, and I am going to a Mac Power Users outing tonight. They're doing a meetup down in downtown Chicago because Katie and David are in town for, I think it's a lawyer tech show of some kind. Like a conference. Expo sort of thing.
Cool.
It's funny because this has been in Chicago for years and years and years, and I never went, nor did I have any reason to go because I worked at such a big place where I had so little control over the technology I used that it really didn't matter what the technology in the world was. I was just going to get to use the crippled version of Windows that I was going to be given and be happy with it, right? So
sure.
So because David, I think when I saw him last year at this, he's like, "Do you ever go to this show? I mean, you're interested. You're a technology guy. Do you ever go to this?" I was like, no, there was never a reason for me to. But it's good because he's in town and I can see him and Katie, and that'll be nice.
Nice. Well, obviously it's a lot later for me, so I will be, maybe watch some TV or a movie, and then I'll be off to bed.
All right. Well, good for you. And don't stay up late editing this awesome episode. You can always do that tomorrow.
Exactly. Wow. Tomorrow's Jessica Jones Day on Netflix, season 2.
Oh, I saw some.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw some ads for that or something somewhere. I didn't realize it was tomorrow though.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait till Friday because we can't trust ourselves not to stay up really late watching it.
Yeah.
So, Anyway, well, I guess we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
All right.
Any links will be in the show notes.
Yep, sounds good.